We bring in Amr Hamzawy. He is joining us right now from Cairo. He is with the Carnegie Middle East Center. Amr, thanks so much for being with us this morning. Our reporter Scarlet Fu just referenced the fact that what we're seeing in Egypt now reminds us of what we saw less than 2 weeks ago in Tunisia. How great is the risk that the current Egyptian government is replaced?
It completely depends on whether what we saw yesterday and the day before will be repeated tomorrow on Friday. The same opposition groups have called for a nationwide demonstration day tomorrow, and whether it will continue to happen or not. I mean, after all, it took 4 weeks in Tunisia to put the government under pressure and later to force Ben Ali, the former president, to leave the country. It's too early to predict. There are some similarities between Tunisia and Egypt. It all depends on whether the sustainability of demonstrations will be there or not.
Amr, we spoke earlier and you said that today was pretty calm in Cairo, but as you just alluded to, it follows 2 days of very active protests, and you say tomorrow is really going to be a key day. One thing that I'm reading about in other reports is that the Egyptian middle class is joining for the first time perhaps ever in these mass demonstrations. Why is that?
Well, it's a significant development which we are seeing, and you are right in mentioning that it's really the middle class which fueled the demonstrations. Especially on Tuesday, we saw young Egyptians, male and female Egyptians, well-educated, private universities, graduates of the American University in Cairo participating in the demonstrations. I guess they have 4 concerns. One, they have a political concern. They demand political freedoms and civil liberties, which we haven't been having in Egypt throughout the last decades. They demand an opening of the political arena, better contestation of parliamentary and presidential elections. They demand social justice. This country has a widening gap between rich and poor, and even if the middle class is not touched or influenced badly, negatively influenced by it, they see it and they suffer from it as well. And finally, it's a regional trend. What we saw in Tunisia has been very inspiring for young Egyptians, and they are trying to catch up.
And I think one thing that has changed as well, Amr, seems to be this way to communicate, right? We know that Al Jazeera carried what happened in Tunisia live. There's this greater sense of social connectivity through sites such as Twitter and Facebook. Is the Egyptian government still shutting down Twitter, though, as we speak?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about today, but until yesterday, until the end of the day yesterday, it was shut down. There were some Facebook accounts which were up and running, and you could access information on what was going on in Cairo and elsewhere in Egypt. Of course, the government is stepping in with its heavy security hand, trying to contain the activism which these young people organized and, in fact, surprised the government with. I mean, the government never saw in the last 3 decades demonstrations beyond hundreds of Egyptians. For thousands of Egyptians to take out to the streets and in a nationwide protest movement, this was quite surprising. They are stepping in to contain it. But as we know from Tunisia, once again, activists can turn around, can get around that, and continue to organize and mobilize. Tomorrow is a test day.
Amr, thank you so much for joining us. Amr Hamzawy joining us there from Cairo, Egypt. He is the director at Carnegie Middle East Center.